Namaste. Welcome all to Candid Convos, a thought leadership initiative of Lead Fact Solutions. In the 7th episode today, we have the pleasure of having Dhruti Shah with us. Dhruti, her background, after completing her post-graduation in commerce from Mumbai, she pursued her MBA from Rutgers Business School, USA, with dual specialization in marketing and global business. This foundation has shaped her global outlook and strategic mindset. Beyond her academic rigor, Dhruti is a certified brain-based coach from the Neuro Leadership Institute and a certified coach from the International Coaching Federation, ICF. With over 20 years of experience in leadership development, human resources, and marketing, Dhruti brings a rich blend of corporate acumen, emotional intelligence, and coaching wisdom to everything she does. She has worked across geographies from California to Singapore to Bengaluru, partnering with entrepreneurs and leaders to unlock their potential. Dhruti currently serves as Director of Digital Initiatives with C2COD Bengaluru. What is Dhruti's superpower? She helps people confront their self-limiting beliefs, build sustainable support systems, and cultivate a mindset that thrives in uncertainty. Colleagues and friends describe Dhruti as annoyingly optimistic, unbelievably persistent, refreshingly honest, bullheaded, and determined. Dhruti has authored the best-selling book, The Resilient Entrepreneur: Strategies to Set You Up for Success. This book is not just a guide by the side, but a roadmap filled with tips, tools, frameworks, and of course, real life stories, both from her life incidents as well as from others, which is very inspiring to us. See, whether you are starting up or whether you are scaling up or just want to stay sane in today's hyper dynamic world, this book offers clarity and courage. We are going to discuss more about this book in this episode. Thanks, Dhruti, for joining us today.
Thank you, Ramesh, for having me on for the very kind words. I'm honored. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Yeah. See, before we actually get into question and answers, Dhruti, I have a confession and admission to make.
Sure.
Confession is, though I got this book, gifted by you in the L&D Open in Bengaluru somewhere in
Mhm.
2022,
Yeah.
I could not get an opportunity to go through it because I was, in an employment. So this was about entrepreneurship. So I thought, like, okay, fine. This was, not a major attraction to me.
Mhm.
Till very recently. Once I started my entrepreneurship journey this year, this book title resonated with me and I started reading it only to be amazed. Yeah.
I'm glad.
And the admission, and the admission is, though you have titled this book as The Resilient Entrepreneur, I would recommend this for any leaders who want to build resilience as a muscle.
Yeah.
I would simply say read the title as The Resilient Leader.
Yeah. That is true, Ramesh, because even when I was writing the book,
Yeah.
I was not an entrepreneur at that point in time. I was becoming one.
Hmm.
And I had my
Okay.
practice in Singapore before I joined C2COD as a director. And that
Hmm.
was really the trigger. And as I was thinking about it, the reason I chose entrepreneur was dual, right? One is because I saw there was a huge gap in the
Right.
entrepreneurial literature when you think about it. There was a lot in terms of, how to be kick-ass, how to nail this, venture after venture, and all very machoistic if you think about it.
Yeah.
But I think the subtle stuff around your mindset, around how do you
Hmm.
deal with failure, and as we all know, the statistics are out there. So many startups fail, right? So many entrepreneurs are humbled by the experience. How do you stay true to yourself despite all of that? So that was
Hmm.
one aspect of it. And second, startup as an industry just talks to me. I've never been an entrepreneur in my life, not the traditional sense of entrepreneurship when you think about it. I've not had
Mm,
a startup which has been like a multi-million or multi-billion dollar startup. None of that.
right.
It's just the connect I naturally feel towards startup and an entrepreneurial mindset, which made me give the title of the resilient entrepreneur, to be honest. Um,
Wow.
but you are absolutely right. Everything that I've written in the book is based on personal experience. I've really had to do a lot of reflection to first understand why
Mm,
resilience. Why am I so attracted to the concept of resilience, right?
mm.
What does it mean for me? More importantly, how do I become resilient? I think the how of it is what is really critical over here. And that's what I've tried to highlight in the book as well. So I don't know if that came across, but yeah, that was the intent.
That's great. So what I understood is like, there are a lot of books to talk about what, but you thought like let us delve something into how to
Exactly.
become an entrepreneur or a resilient entrepreneur,
Yeah.
or resilient leader for that matter.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes, absolutely.
So, is there any other trigger for you to get into this title topic?
I So one was, of course, the personal observation that I had and the connect that I had with the entrepreneurial community, even when I was in San
Mm,
Francisco, in California at that point, back in 2009. And I saw that there was so much rigor around this. And a lot of people gave up, not because of lack of resources or skill sets. I think they gave up
mm,
because there was a lack of resilience. So that one was the trigger. Second, as I already said, there was a gap in that literature, and I was like, okay, how do we do that? Um,
mm,
Third, as I was also in my coaching journey at that point in time, I was getting certified to become a coach. So both were parallel processes in that sense. And
okay.
it became more like a purpose for me. It became my own mission statement that the next generation of entrepreneurs, wherever
Mm,
they are, right, whether they are in tier one cities of India or tier two or tier three, and why just India, right, globally speaking, should never have to give up because of the lack of resilience. They shouldn't have to give up on their dreams. They shouldn't have to give up on
mm,
their aspirations just because they lacked resilience. And again, the term has been overused, especially after COVID. We've heard
mm.
a lot around it. And my book was before COVID.
Okay.
When I was writing the book, this was before COVID. It launched later, but
Right.
2019 November is when the seeds were planted that I'm going to do this. I did
Okay.
a soft launch with a very different cover with a few different aspects in 2020, which not many
Right.
people are aware of. Then, when I joined C2COD, is when we did a proper launch in July 2022. Uh,
Okay.
so it may feel like a post-COVID product, but the ideas were deeply rooted in November 2019 before we knew that the world was going to change the way we know it.
Correct. Great. But still you touched upon COVID.
Yes,
Some of the case
I did a
studies.
Yes, that's right.
I
And
think.
what happened was when I was writing in 2019 and 2020, I didn't think
Mm,
of interviewing entrepreneurs at that point in time.
yes.
The later part, which for the lack of a better term, I call it version two of the book, is when I included those interviews, which is
Okay.
what you would have seen in the book now. And
Yep.
then the whole, that a little layer of COVID and all of that came into being as a result of that. So I
That's,
tweaked a few things based on those experiences as well. But
yep.
I think 75, 80% of the book remained the same. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
See, you are talking about the characteristics of a resilient individual,
Hmm.
Dhruti. There, you are telling about behavioral as well as emotional.
That's
See,
right.
in fact, you've written a lot about this. Maybe if you can touch upon couple of points as to what you meant by behavioral and what you meant by emotional.
Sure. So, and this is again where I see a little bit of a gap. There's a lot of literature when we read about
Mm,
resilience. There's a
mm,
lot of scholars have done a lot of research. Resilience as a concept was started because there were certain observations made about children who came from difficult backgrounds,
okay.
different backgrounds, right? Not a
Mm,
normal quote unquote childhood that we would say. They've had their difficulties and they've still bounced back, which is what led to the entire research around resilience. That what is that ability that helps you bounce back from the setbacks that you've had, and changes the outcome of your life as a result, right? And so that's where it started, really. It's a fairly new concept. A lot of research needs to be done yet. When I was writing the book, as I told you, I was drawing on my personal experiences, and I
Yeah.
was also doing a lot of research around what has already been written, what is already out there, because I didn't want to, reinvent the wheel. What's out there is out there, but I wanted to
Yep.
write it in a way which is easy for people to digest, which is chewable in that sense, right? As you
Mm.
think about it.
Mm.
So if you notice, the book is written in a very simple language. I've tried not to use jargons. I've tried not to be very verbose. It's not about
Yep.
showing off my writing skills. It's about actually giving a blueprint to people, which is easy to understand. So I know of a 10-year-old child who has also read the book and has understood it. So that was good
That's good.
validation.
Yeah.
Coming back to your question around characteristics of a resilient individual, yes, you're right. There are the behavioral aspects, and then there is the emotional aspect.
Mm.
Um, Couple of things that have stood out for me, and in my journey as a coach I've also seen, so this is coming from there as well. One is the adaptability. So a little side story over here. As I was interviewing the entrepreneurs, I had my
Right.
6 pillars ready, and I would tell, okay, pivot is one of the things you need to do. And one of the entrepreneurs was like, it's not just pivoting, it's about having the ability to pivot, which is important.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
and that's where the entire analogy about, when you are getting punched as a boxer, right? You are not going to take the hit. You are going to duck. You are going
Yep.
to pivot to make sure that you don't get hit. And that's your ability. You build your muscle in a way where pivoting comes naturally to you. So that's one absolute adaptability aspect of it that we talk about, right?
Yep.
The second one, and this has come time and again, and I cannot emphasize on this enough, is establishing strong social networks. It's
Mm.
about building and maintaining relationships, right? To again give you a personal example, um, I thrive on my social connections. I'm not a absolute outgoing person. I love interacting with people, but then I need to go back and breathe in and then come out again, right? So I'm more like an ambivert. So when you look at that, and when you establish those connections, it's
Mm.
really important for you to nurture and maintain those connections. And I see myself suffering when I don't have those connections. There is a
Right.
natural, and I think for you to be able to do that, that level of self-awareness is absolutely important. What is happening to you when things are going as per the plan? How are you responding when things are not going as per the plan? What's your natural inclination, right? Are you able to bounce back based on your own energy, or do you need energy from others in order to feel better? There is no right or wrong. You just need to recognize what it is and go with it. So that is one of
Right.
the another behavioral aspect or characteristic, if you may will, of a resilient individual. They are aware, they are tuned in. If it is about creating a strong social network, go for it. It's about building adaptability, see what you can do in order to build that. So that's the behavioral side of it.
Mm.
Talking about the emotional characteristic part, I think we always say, right, that there's a difference between the mind and the intellect, right?
Yep.
When we are thinking about the emotional self, it's really important to stay in control. Yeah, which means that that discipline. Think about sports, the athletes, right?
Okay.
Um, that rigor to wake up at 4:30 a.m., drink what you need to drink, eat what you need to eat, work out. Think about an Olympian. Yeah.
Mm.
And I think that's one of the examples I've given in the book, if I remember it right.
Yes.
If you think about an Olympian, their moment is going to happen after 4 years. But
Yep.
that rigor that is needed, and you cannot even imagine the number of changes that would happen in a personal life in 4 years. But that self-control, are you
Yes.
controlling your mind, or is your mind controlling you? Because the mind is
Mm.
going to play games. The mind is
Yeah.
going to give you enough reasons to say, hey, but your body is tired. Shouldn't you be listening to your body? What's happening? So instead of building endurance, you're going to give in early on. And then what happens as a
Mm.
result, right? So think about it that way. So that is one emotional characteristic, is to be in control, right? And the other one is feeling empowered. You know,
Mm.
that confidence that nothing can deter you, come what,
Right.
and having that faith in yourself and
Mm.
saying that I got this. I think those are some of the emotional characteristics that become really important for you as you go about building your resilience. And these are day-to-day things, right? You can do um, you can maintain a journal if you want to. You could be
Mm.
talking to someone. You could be meditating. You could be just centering yourself. For example, in Bangalore's busy life, I think it's globally known how the traffic is. I was just on call with someone in Australia, and they're like, "How do you manage doing so much with Bangalore's traffic?" And I was like, "Sure." So I think it's globally known. We're very infamous for that. How much ever I love Bangalore, that's a fact. That traffic is a pain. So for me personally, I've come to get into that frame of mindful driving, which
Mm.
means that even when I'm driving, I'm very mindful of my physical reactions, my emotional reactions, and I don't do it
Mm.
all the 90 minutes or 2 hours that I'm on the road. But there's a time when I get into that zone, and I'm just mindful. And and then there are times where I will turn everything all off, and I will just reflect on what I need to reflect on. If there is a problem that I'm trying to solve, whatever it is, so I
Yep.
get into that zone. So what works for you, you got to figure it out. Yeah, it's easy for us to complain, but
Yep.
it's that much difficult for you to say, okay, these are the cards that I'm dealt with. What am I going to do about it? So again, those are the characteristics of a resilient individual.
Great. So this also has to got to do with self-awareness, as you mentioned in the behavioral aspect, right? So
Yes,
it goes hand in hand.
very much. Absolutely. Yes, you got that right. Yeah.
So, and you have written an entire chapter on purpose, Dhruti. See, but in management parlance, there
Mm,
is a tendency to interchange few things like purpose, goal, objective, target.
mm.
These are all used very interchangeably. Are there any difference between these things? Whether purpose is different from this, or what is your take on this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So think about your purpose as your why,
Mm.
and think about your goals as your what. So goals
Mm.
is a way to achieve your purpose. Purpose is much larger than that. That's your North Star. Purpose is what is defined based on the values that you have, right? So
Right.
if I have to give you an analogy, taking all four into consideration, um, think about purpose as your destination city. Let's say if you're
Right.
driving from Bangalore to Goa, right?
Yep.
Um, your goal is the route, the highway that you're going to take. Yeah. And your objective will are the
Mm.
measurable steps that this is how I'm going to go. And your targets are the mile markers that, okay, in 2 hours, there's a food court coming. I'm going to take a break over here. So that becomes like a
Right.
target that, okay, I'm going for this. It's very nuanced if you think about it, because your purpose is like a fundamental reason for
Mm.
your existence, for your actions. Your goals become a very specific what, that based on the
Okay.
purpose that I have, what are the things that I need to do in order to achieve my
Mm.
purpose, for example.
Right.
Your objectives are even smaller steps that you take in order to achieve your goal.
Right.
And your target is quantified metric within the objective. So that's how it typically works. Now if I have to give you an example where let's look at our personal health, right? If your purpose is to
Yep.
remain fit, yeah, your goal is to climb. For the lack of an example, I'm just going to say go to base camp of Mount Everest. Let's say
Okay.
that's one of the goals that you have. The objective that you would set is, okay, in a year, I should be able to
Mm.
climb this, right? So that's a very specific measurable outcome that you're setting for yourself. The
Yep.
target then is that every month, I'm going to,
Mm.
month on month, let's say if I'm achieving that within a year, month on month, these are the mile markers that I need to achieve to know that I'm on the route to get to the base camp next year.
Mm. Okay.
So I
Got
hope
it.
that's clear, right? So your purpose is to do that. Your goal is to climb. Your objective is then to say that I need to achieve this in order to meet my goal. And your target would then be broken down into smaller aspects, which is within the objective itself.
Quantifiable. Targets are mostly,
Yeah.
quantifiable, and the
Yes.
purpose is, overarching.
Yeah.
That is the wider umbrella under which all these
Purpose is
things go.
the wishy-washy thing of the 90s. You know, people that, who never took it seriously because they're like, baloney, it doesn't make sense, right? But it is a huge driver in everything that you do.
Exactly. Both in personal as well as professional, right?
Absolutely. And sometimes the purpose can be just one. So, for
Hmm.
example, if I have to again share a personal example on purpose, my
Yep.
purpose is to create a positive impact on the lives of people that I meet.
Right.
If I take a taxi, I'm going to smile at the driver and I'm going to say, hey, how is it going? And if I see them frustrated, I typically ask, is everything all right? Because I want to create a positive impact even in that half an hour that I'm with them. So it can be that. When I'm talking to a leader and they're having
Hmm.
challenges with a team or in terms of achieving their goal, then I'm going to have a very different conversation. But the idea is to create that positive impact. So purpose is a huge thing in that sense. My goal then was to become a coach, which will help me achieve my purpose. And you do a lot of other things, right, in order to do that. So that's how we
Right.
would look at it.
Great. So, and about creating a purpose statement, you
Mm,
have given a very excellent framework, IALSA. So, can you please, explain that?
yeah. So again, it's amazing when you don't find what you're looking for, you create your own. So I created this
Hmm.
framework essentially because I was like, we keep saying purpose and it sounds great and all, but how? Again, the how of it, right? How do you go about achieving that? So I created that framework, and very briefly, in about 30 seconds, maybe I can tell you what that is.
Yep.
When you look at I is essentially your intent, the one thought that doesn't let you sleep. It's like your driving force, right?
Hmm.
When you look at A, it's about answering your why. So the 5 why methodology, for example, is very famous,
Yep.
right? So you would go about answering that why until you reach a point when you cannot answer your why anymore. That's you answering your why. L is about listing your values. Now, like I said before, values is what will help you with your purpose as well, right?
Hmm.
So, and it will also guide your behavior. It will also guide your decisions. So, listing your values is extremely important. To
Yep.
help you do that comes S, which is strengths, recognizing your natural abilities, what you're appreciated for, right? And A is the aspiration. Was there something that remained unfulfilled? Maybe a childhood dream, maybe
Hmm.
something that keeps nagging at you, but you are ignoring it. So, again, it can be connected, your purpose can be connected to that, right? So, if you think about intent, if you think about answering your why, if you think about listing your values, your strengths, and your aspirations, once you start listing all that out, you will see a pattern or a theme that emerges. And
Yep.
that can be your purpose. Now, a word of caution over here: we are always in a rush to do things, no, because we are all high achievers. And we are successful only when we achieve things. But what we tend to ignore, or rather we choose to ignore, is that even progress is leading you somewhere. So you don't have to go for perfection. Even when you
Hmm.
are creating your purpose, make it a work in progress. Keep going back at it and see whether this really resonates with you. Then align your actions and behavior to your purpose to see that, okay, what are the things that I need to change? So all of that flows later on. But the framework is essentially is what helps you get to your purpose.
So, yeah, actually, it helps you to get into a objective statement.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes,
rather than, getting into a wishy-washy statement, like it gets into more objective, makes it more objective.
exactly. Make it,
Hmm.
and a couple of other things, right? As you're creating your purpose, it's easy to forget it. So, you need to
Hmm.
make sure that it's not a run on sentence full of beautiful language that people love to hear. I think it needs to be something that you can relate to. So I
Hmm.
remember, and I'm not in Bangalore right now. Otherwise, I would have shown you. I've created a frame for myself, and it was a
Okay.
bedside table frame.
All
Uh,
right.
when I was having my own journey in the sense I was having my struggles. And this is while I was writing the book as well, right? So I was having my own journey of self-discovery in that sense. The
Okay.
one thing that kept me going is that frame at the bedside table, because I wrote my
Okay.
purpose and my values, like literally words, in that. And that kept me going, because before sleeping and after waking up, the first thing I see is that frame. And
Hmm.
that just reinstilled the beliefs, the values, and the purpose. And that's what kept me going despite whatever. So I think that becomes really important. What you do with it is also equally important.
Correct. That's great. So, and you also mentioned about strategies for developing growth mindset,
Yeah.
basically, to bulletproof the resilience.
Yeah.
So, can you please share couple of strategies?
So there is a beautiful book called Mindset, written by Carol Dweck,
Hmm.
which I had read earlier. And I don't remember when it was launched, but I think it was, yeah, before I wrote the book for sure. And that's a beautiful book. So for people who are interested, just pick up that book. It's a masterclass in growth mindset. So one of the strategies that really works when you are thinking about growth mindset is
Hmm.
have that focus on learning. If you find yourself delving on things where you were unsuccessful, where
Right.
you attempted something and it didn't pan out the way you wanted, and and trust me, you will. This, it's natural, it's human for all of us
Hmm.
to be able to, because we have a natural gravitation towards negativity. Unfortunately, we are
Hmm.
wired that way. We focus a lot on what did not work out well, so you will go there.
Hmm.
You'll always be a work in progress when it comes to growth mindset. The one thing that you need to do is bring your focus back on learning. Yeah, and this is
Right.
what all the people out there who are successful have used this technique. If I have failed, again, coming back to the Olympic example, right? 4 years of hard work, it comes down to that one moment. And if you don't make the mark, depending on your age, you may have another chance, or you may have
Yep.
lost your only chance, right? If you
Yes.
focus on that one moment where everything went wrong, too bad. You're not going to be able to move on from that moment. But if you
Hmm.
want to move on from that moment, you will have to focus on what you've learned, what you've achieved in that practice of 4 years that you did. So
Hmm.
now, if you think about it, extrapolate that example to entrepreneurship and leadership, you will fail as a leader. You will have massive mistakes that may get highlighted into media, and you will be trolled. A lot of things may happen, and this has happened to entrepreneurs. We know the names as well to whom this has happened. But if they choose to focus on that and not focus on the learning from their experience, and it could be something as simple as, I need to keep my mouth shut. Well, okay, great, you got to learn
Hmm.
it there, right? So focus on that. That's a growth mindset strategy 101. Second thing, and there are many more, but these two are close to my heart, is pushing your limits. Are you comfortable with the status quo? Are you
Right.
comfortable with where you are? If you are, let's say, running 5K every day, is that enough? Do you want to go to 6, 7, 8, 10, anywhere at all? So push your limits. Ask yourself,
Yep.
is this it? Can I do more? How do you build endurance? That's exactly how you build endurance, right? Um, so,
Right.
so keep pushing that limit. That's another way to get into that growth mindset zone, right? And and as I always say, even to my daughter and to her friends, don't tell me that I cannot do it. I cannot do it yet. And
Okay.
this, I think, is also one of the strategies mentioned by Carol Dweck in her book, which I hold very close to my heart. And every time I tell myself I cannot do it, I'm just going to say yet. Um, because you will find it very easy to say, I cannot do it because I don't want to do it. I can if I want to. Of course I can. I just don't want to
Correct.
do it. That's you making an excuse. How about you do it first and then decide, I don't want to do it again, maybe. But first do it.
Exactly. Yep.
Challenge yourself a little bit. So that's around growth mindset.
But adding that yet is very powerful, actually. Yeah.
Very, very powerful, very powerful. And I think this is a habit that we need to build right from our childhood, because
Hmm.
nothing is impossible if it is aligning with your purpose, if it is aligning with your value system. Then the only thing between you and your, whatever you want to achieve is just you and your mindset that is standing in the middle. If you're able to
Right.
fix that, Everything else becomes excuses. Oh, but my environment. Oh, but the people around me. Oh, but my leader. Oh, but my parents. Oh, whatever, whatever, whatever. You'll give yourself like 100 excuses not to move forward. But if
Correct.
you fix your mindset, then that's it.
Yes. See, the chapter, where you spoke about time for spring cleaning. So you
Mm.
written in detail about many things. So two things, were very appealing to me. One is staying optimistic despite the odds. Yeah, is it is easier said than done. And
Mhm.
another interesting point that you have mentioned is moving from pessimism to defensive pessimism.
Yeah.
That is something, which I have not come across. So can you please tell us what it is?
So the optimistic part, staying optimistic despite the odds, is what I covered a little bit in the growth mindset as well, right? You
Hmm.
focus on what you can control rather than the circumstances which are beyond your influence. So
Right.
again, going back to the wisdom which is already out there in the world, if you've heard about Covey's circle of influence, yeah,
Yeah.
there are three concentric circles: circle of control, circle of influence, circle of concern.
You
So
also mentioned it in your book.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
so when you think about that, you just remain in the circle of control, keep expanding your circle of control. Yeah. If you are going to operate from circle of concern, here's the here's the thing. I have spoken to a lot of leaders
Mm.
who have in their sessions told me that they try to stay away from news.
From
Now,
news. Okay.
news, yeah, from news. Um,
Mm.
the reason for that is, unfortunately, instead of becoming a beacon of truth and whatever it used to be, the reason it started, news today have become what sells, what people want to hear. And here is
Mm.
the a not so secret thing, right? We are all sold on fear. We're all
Mm.
sold on chaos. Yeah.
Mm.
So the more you get it into your life, the more negative you're going to become. You may not even realize it, and you will have a personality to think negative before positive. If you want to stay optimistic, I think that circle of control bit is really important. I'm not saying stop reading newspaper or whatever you do in order to consume your news, but social media has had a large role to play in how we think, how we behave, how we feel. We've been determined. Our feelings are now determined by what we scroll, which is
Yep.
a problem. So if you want to really stay optimistic, if you really want to be able to have some sense of control over how you're thinking, then you need to control the circumstances that are around you. Yeah, so it's your choice. You want to go that route, you can very much. Um, and the other thing which is important, one is of course focus on what you can control. The second is
Mm.
you need to reframe the challenges as opportunities. You
Okay.
need to be able to do that, um, because otherwise you're going to go down again that negativity spiral. Yeah, so if you want to rise above that, it's difficult, especially when you're in the moment. You may find it impossible, which is where, again, remember I said earlier, your support system that comes into play. If you see yourself going there, talk to,
Right.
have your mentors, have your coaches, have your best friends who got your back. uh,
Mm.
and that's an interesting concept, but that's for another day maybe. But so all those things play a huge role in you staying optimistic, and most importantly, celebrate the small wins. um, you may have a huge goal. We talked about goal, objective, target. Every target that you achieve, celebrate
Mm.
that. Don't keep the celebration for later. Yeah. So
Got
every
it.
target
Mm.
that you achieve, make it a celebration. And that just brings in the right chemical balance in your brain to be able to stay optimistic and stay above the water and keep breathing in that sense. So that's the one concept you asked, right? And the second was going from pessimism to defensive pessimism. Now, this
Yes.
again was a very interesting concept in my research. As I I came across it. I was like, well, I've never heard that. What is defensive pessimism? So it was a very new thing for me as well. So when we look at things like optimistic, pessimistic is more of a mindset where we are saying that, yeah, okay, this person is just what it is. It's a mindset. It becomes like a personality trait. It's a negative
Mm.
outlook. Only the worst can happen. Yeah. So that's the way you think. Defensive pessimism, on the other hand, is more of a strategy. It's a cognitive strategy. It's not a personality thing. It's a cognitive strategy
Mm.
that you can use. Yeah.
So consciously do it.
consciously do it. So I realized I use that strategy without realizing it. So I will always assume the worst case scenario, and then I'll put in all my effort to make sure that I don't reach that scenario.
Okay.
That's defensive pessimism. I'm never
Right.
optimistic. I may come across as a very optimistic person. People have told me I'm very optimistic. I'm like, you have no idea what goes on in my head. Trust me, I'm
Okay.
not. But without realizing, and that's why this concept spoke to me quite a bit. I'm like, oh my God, that is so me. I do this all the time. So I'm not
Okay.
pessimistic. I don't always say that I'm never going to be able to get there. This is so not me. This is not my thing. I never think like that. So that's pessimism, right? And defensive pessimism will help you achieve your goal. There is
Mm,
often a history of good performance despite negative expectations. When you think about defensive pessimism, there is that.
mm,
Um, there is a lot of time spent on rehearsing and preparing for challenges. That's defensive pessimism. It's
mm,
more of an adaptive strategy. How do you adapt to it? So, again, we were talking about mindset earlier, right? When we are thinking about the mindset of a pessimist, they're going to say
mm,
things will go wrong and there is nothing I can do to make it right.
mm,
And someone who is practicing defensive pessimism will say, I'll prepare for the worst case scenario so I can give my best, so I can deliver my best. So that's the difference. And optimistics are great. Just a word of caution for people out there, over optimism can be toxic,
okay.
because then you just think you are in la la land. Nothing can ever go wrong, which means you never prepare yourself. Everything has been great
Mm,
so far. What possibly can go wrong? Nothing. Things are good. Sun is shining. Brilliant. You have no idea about the storm that's about to come because we cannot see the future, can we? So when we think about defensive pessimism, it really keeps you in the right frame of mind, and it helps you succeed. The chances of you succeeding are much higher. So that's
mm.
really the optimism, pessimism, defensive pessimism part of it.
Good. And thanks for the candid admission about pessimism. For someone who is described as annoyingly optimistic by the
Yeah,
friends and colleagues.
exactly. Yeah, and it can be so fatal. That over optimism, I cannot even tell you how fatal that can be for people, because then what happens, and I've seen this number of times, when you're overly optimistic, you go down real fast when something, because either you've never experienced it or you never
Mm,
saw it coming and it led to, real bad stuff and you don't want to go there. So hence it's always better to, we always say this, right? Create a pros and cons list, create worst case scenarios, contingency plans, all of that. That's defensive pessimism at its best.
great. Very simply put and lucid. Thanks,
Yeah.
Dhruti. And you spoke about the broad principles of improvisation. You mentioned
Mm.
about three broad principles to hit the reset button.
Yeah, that's right.
So can you please, yeah, can you please share those three?
I thank you so much for reading the chapters in detail, by the way, because yeah, this is like literally from each chapter you picked up a few things which really resonated. It looks like
Yes.
um, improv is a technique which is used by theater artists, and
Mm,
um, when you go for plays, typically everything is rehearsed and it's flawless, the execution part of it. Good plays, at least, right? Improv is a very different theater technique where you build upon each other's responses. Yeah. So,
okay.
and there are three principles. The reason that helps you with your resilience, so I'll first draw the connection and then I'll talk about the three principles. The reason it
Mm,
really helps you with your resilience is when you are practicing improv, it it essentially, when you listen to the three principles, you realize that as a leader, that's what you're supposed to do. As an entrepreneur, that's what you're supposed to do. So,
mm,
and it automatically helps you build your resilience. It helps you build your relationships. And all of this has a very direct impact on how you respond to failure or how you respond to challenges and setbacks. So, the first principle is yes and.
mm,
And I remember this when I was talking to one of my very close friends about this. She's like, "Oh, that's interesting. We always keep saying but." I'm like, "Exactly." So, and for those who are less aware, when you say yes but, you've negated everything before that yes. That
exactly.
means technically you don't agree with it, but you're just pretending like you do, which is not true, right? So
Yeah.
yes
That
and
yes has got no value there. Because of the but. Yes,
Exactly.
has lost its relevance.
Lost
Yeah.
its value because then you are suddenly rebutting everything that you've just heard. So, yes, and essentially what it does it is you accept the situation as it is and you
Mm,
build upon it creatively rather than resisting or rejecting what it is. So, that really becomes important as a leader, as an entrepreneur. The second
mm,
principle around improv is to listen and to respond. Now, I mean, you pick up any management book, you pick up any book around having good communication or difficult conversations, you will read this all the time. Active listening, empathetic listening, the
yep.
key to everything. We still don't do that. In improv, why it becomes so important from a theater artist's perspective is because as one artist is saying something, the other is building up on it. And instead of
Okay.
saying no, they're saying yes and. They're listening to everything that is being, so they're listening even to the nuances of this and then responding. So that's the second principle. And the
Mm,
third and most important principle is to follow your instincts, which means when you think about it from a theater perspective, you can take the story anywhere you want it to go as an artist.
yep.
And
Mm,
I believe entrepreneurs are artists too, because they can take any direction that they want to take. And a lot of entrepreneurs that I spoke to validated this, that yes, a lot about it is instinct. The
mm,
entire market may tell you that this is not going to happen. Investors will tell you that this is a rubbish idea, forget it, not happening. But if you follow your instincts and you have faith in your creativity and yourself, just go with it. And that's
mm,
important. That's a very important principle of improv and entrepreneurship in general when you think about it.
mm. Great. And see, we all know about CPR as a life-saving technique, and
Yes.
interestingly, you also mentioned CPR as a more like a resilience-saving technique.
Yes.
So, what is CPR in resilience?
So, again, when you are thinking about CPR, these
Mm,
are the three things which become, without which building resilience is almost impossible, right? If you think about it. So, and these are very heavily connected to emotional intelligence. So, in order to build your resilience, you first
mm,
also need to understand the principles of emotional intelligence, as Daniel Goleman has given it to us, right?
yep.
So it starts with self awareness, then you get into self management, relationship management, and you go from there. So, uh, when you think about CPR, C is creating self awareness. That means knowing where you are. We've spoken at length about that before. The
Yep.
second part is P, which means practicing empathy. Supremely
Mm,
important, right? You
mm,
need to build the deeper connections. You need to understand others' perspective in order to strengthen the relationships with them, which
right.
helps build your resilience, by the way, in return. And R is relationship. How do you manage the relationship that you have, both your personal and professional ones, right? Because it provides the foundation for you during tough times. When going gets
Mm,
tough, as we say, right? The tough gets going. And that's, you're able to do that because of the relationships that you have. Um, a lot of entrepreneurs, male entrepreneurs that I've spoken to, have given a lot of credit to their spouses as well, because they're like, without that, I wouldn't have been able to do that. That's the foundation
mm,
upon which I've created my startup. And if not for her, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So, yes, it is very easy for you to forego everything for the sake of what you're building, and very easy for you to say, people just don't get me, and I'm still going to do what I want to do. But those relationships is what, think about it like parachute, no? When you are taking the plunge, the
mm,
relationships that you build are like the parachute that will get you to that safe landing that you need to get to. So that's essentially what you need to do as an individual, whoever you are, whatever role you are playing in your life. And that's why CPR, because it is it is one of the methods that can bring you back to life, right?
yeah.
So and when you think about it from a resilience perspective, if you don't have these three, everything else that is in the book is rubbish then. Because first,
Mm.
think about building these three.
Great. See, all these things, what I understood, Dhruti, is pointing towards one thing is, interdependence between human beings. Like,
Yeah.
we cannot afford to operate in isolation.
No, we
No.
cannot.
Yeah.
And
So that's
that's
what
why
all these things point towards.
you're absolutely right. And you bring up a great point because um, we are slowly getting into a space, especially since September 2022, where isolation may only increase. Because, and this is a reality, again, it's not a well kept secret at all. Um, Even coaching, for example, I'm a leadership coach, right? Even coaching is being done by artificial intelligence models. And there are two schools of thoughts, two opposing school of thoughts over there. One is saying that, yeah, because the model is not going to judge you. The model will not have the biases that a human being will have. And there is another school of thought which says that's what makes it beautiful. Having human coaching is because you are human. If AI is coaching a AI, great. Human being coached by AI can be disastrous because there is so many nuances that a human can get. But again, we are heading to a place where increasingly the world is getting isolated, that there is an entire community of people who've chosen to stay connected. Go for that.
Okay.
Yeah, clearly I'm part of that community. But so, so because you'll realize that we didn't do very well. Even part of our evolution, if you think about it, we didn't do very well when we were isolated. We thrived when we were connected because
Exactly.
that's our basis. We're social
Yes.
animals. Um, Again, maybe a discussion for another day, but extremely important is to remain connected in order to build your resilience. Yeah, the interdependency I cannot even focus enough on.
Yes. See, when it comes to goal setting, we all know about SMART goals.
Yeah,
You mentioned something about FAST framework, FAAST, which is a combination of SMART and FAST.
that's right.
Very
Yeah.
interesting, Dhruti. Can you please share some insights?
Again, it came from a need to say that I personally I like smart goals, but I feel like it's lacking certain elements, and it hasn't kept up with the time, because of which we have to keep adding a couple of elements here and there. As even as facilitators and coaches, we need to talk about a few things there. Um, Fast again was great as a framework, but nothing clicked for me. I was like, something is missing in both, and I didn't want to have. And then there is, of course, when you think about entrepreneurship, there is the BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goals, right? Which is
Yep.
great to have. But
You
again,
mentioned about that also in your book.
yeah, it didn't resonate. So that's why I created the five different elements, so to say, which is about frequent assessment, which means regularly reviewing and course correcting. Think about it like GPS for your journey, right? As you're on your journey, whether you're an entrepreneur or a leader, you need to frequently assess where you are at, where you're headed. You need to be, uh, you need to have the ability to be agile, right? You
Right.
must be able to pivot when circumstances change. You need to be ambitious. If you are aiming, oh, you know what, I'll just aim at this one little thing and then that's it, not going to work. You need to be ambitious enough, because aim for the sky, you'll fall on the tree. Aim for the tree, you'll fall on the ground. No, so you
Yep.
want to be ambitious so that when things change, you still have something to salvage. You need to be specific, which is clear, measurable outcomes. This is my favorite all the time, even in smart, right? And time bound,
Yep.
because if you are going to go for indefinite stuff, again, it's not going to help you. You need to have defined timelines, which helps you create urgency. It helps you create accountability. It helps you communicate better with the team members. It helps you have an alignment with the co-founder if you have one, or even your leadership team for that matter. So that's why I took elements from both and I was like, yeah, if you set a goal which you can frequently assess, which has inbuilt agility, which is ambitious, which is specific, which is time bound, that's where it will really help you thrive. So yeah, that was the framework.
It's interesting. So, towards the end of the book, in the last chapter, resilience in action,
Mm,
there were, some beautiful 10 resilient stories of 10 entrepreneurs, real
yeah.
life stories by them, actually, directly from horse's mouth. So, from this, I found everything to be interesting. But as an author, what were all, one or two things, or, one or two stories that strongly resonated with you, and you felt like, wow, this is like me.
Yeah, so you're right. Even the people that I've not interviewed, but I've mentioned in the book, even the people that I've interviewed, I think one story really stood out for me. So I'll maybe share that. And the reason it stood out is because everything that I was thinking, this guy has done it. And I was like, yeah, That's a resilient entrepreneur right there, right? And he continues growing by leaps and bounds. And I always, time and again, I keep messaging as I see his progress. I'm like, it's so great to see you do this. His name is Somil Majmudar, and
Yep.
he's the founder of Sports Village. And
Village. Yeah.
yeah, and his story really resonated with me. He also recently released a book. His entire mission is around getting kids to play and all. It resonated because, man, he played the long game, and it's not easy. When I think about Sawmill, and I think about resilience, I think about time as such an important element, because he was so patient and he thought about it from a long term perspective. For him, time is equal to resilience, right? Um,
Mm.
and there were so many times where he failed, but eventually, of course, succeeded. And for me, that demonstrates that good things take time. In the interview, he's mentioned as well that uh, when and it's not like he comes from tons of wealth. No, he
Yep.
didn't have a safe landing. There was no soft cushion or anything. And bringing up a family, right, with two kids, a spouse and all. Of course, the spouse was super supportive in this. He started consulting during the day, and he would work on a startup in the evening and at night. And that just shows commitment. It's so easy to get sucked into the comfort, consulting, everything is going great, I'm being recognized, brilliant guy,
Mm.
and everything is great, why would I bother, right? But no, that passion, that purpose of wanting to create the startup, to create an impact, to make a change, was so strong in his mind that he kept pursuing it. And
Mm.
I love his practice to have that quarterly retreat as well,
Yeah.
with where he spends time reflecting. So again, everything that was in the book, I can connect it to Somil and say, okay, yeah, you know what, he's done this. So interviewing him became like a validation of the book, where I was like,
Okay.
okay, I'm on the right track. He's shown the way already. So how to gain perspective, how to stay tuned in, how to not give up what is truly important for you, his family and their well-being, and still having a very clear purpose of making
Mm.
an impact on a child's life by getting them to play. So brilliant concept, and they're doing very well right now. His book is done phenomenally well as well. So yeah, I'm excited that I got the chance to interview him for the book.
What is the name of this book? Sawmills?
I believe it's called Get Kids to Play, but I
Oh,
can.
okay.
Yeah, I think so. Let me just quickly look it up. Yeah, it's called Get Kids to Play because that was his overall mantra as well. So it
Yeah.
resonated and I remembered it because of that. So that's his book. Brilliant book.
Great.
Highly recommend. Yeah.
All right, Dhruti, thanks for your time. You could share a lot of insights about the book, about resilience, about entrepreneurship, about leadership, uh, various dimensions we could discuss about it. Thanks for your time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Ramesh, for having me. It was truly a pleasure and it became like a recap of the book for me as well. So thank you.